This is lesson 5-9. We are going to be converting metric units of measurement, which is different than when we're converting customer units of measurement because metric units are based on the number 10. So we'll either be multiplying times 10, 100, 1000, or dividing by 10, 100, 1000. And we know when we're multiplying by these numbers with zeros or dividing by numbers with zeros, we can just move the decimal point. So what's most important for us to remember with metric units of measurement is that we are going to have a base word or a root phrase. And that's what our B stands for here on the table, the base word. And it will either be meters, liters, or grams. Meters has to do with distance, liters has to do with volume, grams has to do with weight. So those are the three different root words that you're going to be noticing with metric. Now we also have to notice these prefixes: kilo, hecto, deca, deci, centi, milli. Prefixes go before words. So if we read through this chart, you can see kilometer, kiloliter, kilogram. Kilo is in front of each of those root words, the meters, liters, or grams. Hectometer, hectoliter, hectogram. Decameter, decaliter, decagram. Decimeter, deciliter, decigram. Centimeter, centiliter, centigram. Millimeter, milliliter, milligram. Okay, so you should notice a pattern there, that there are different prefixes for each of those root words. And the last thing I want to talk about is you may even already know a phrase that helps you remember the order of these letters up top. When I was in school, I remember learning King Henry doesn't bake donuts Christmas morning. So if I know that I'm going to be converting metric units, right away on the top of my page, I would write King Henry doesn't bake donuts Christmas morning. Whatever phrase you've learned or that you remember. And then you have to remember that deca is DA, whereas deci is just a lowercase d. But whichever phrase you may have learned in the past, or if you like my phrase, you can use that to help you remember how to convert these units. So if I said to you, we are going to convert from 1 meter to some amount of decimeters. Well, I'm going to look at my table here. And if I'm starting at meters, well, meters is one of my base words. And I'm moving to decimeter. I look at my chart here, and I'm moving once to the right. So that means with my 1 meter, I have my decimal at the end of the number, right? It's a hidden decimal there. And I'm going to have to move my decimal once to the right. Well, if I move it once to the right, I'm filling in a 0 there. 1 meter would be equal to 10 decimeters. And I'm going to write this up top because I'm hoping we will notice a pattern. What about if I go from 1 meter to centimeters? So if I'm starting with 1 meter, everyone should have your conversion chart out on your table in front of you. If you don't have that, you can write your King Henry doesn't bake donuts Christmas morning on your page, because you should be practicing what we're doing in this video. So I want to go from meters to centimeters now. So I'm starting with meters. Put your pen on meters. And now we have to change to centimeters. Once, twice to the right. So however many boxes I'm moving, that's how many times we would have to move our decimal point. Once, twice to the right. Fill in with zeros. So 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. If I wanted to go from meters to millimeters, I'd have to move my decimal 3 times, which would give me 3 zeros. So 1 meter, or any base, would equal 10 decimeters, which would equal 100 centimeters, which would equal 1,000 millimeters. Now we can do the same thing traveling to the left where our units are getting bigger. Well, if our units are getting bigger, then the number is going to be getting smaller. So if I want to move from 1 meter to how many decameters, I would have 1 meter equals how many decameters. Well, I'd start with my 1, my decimal's at the end, move that decimal once to the left, 0.1. So 1 meter is equal to 0.1 decameters. Same thing if we're going to hecto. We would move that decimal once, twice to the left, 0.01. If we were going to kilometers, 1, 2, 3 times. So I'd move that decimal point once, 2, 3 times, fill in with zeros, 0.001. So you have to notice that kilo is the largest prefix there. So if I'm moving to the left, I'd be dividing. That number would be getting smaller. If we're moving to the right, we're multiplying, the number gets bigger. But you'll notice that pattern as we continue to do more practice. So now let's do some practice questions. It says convert metric units of length. Amelia is helping her father build a skate ramp. They cut a board 1.2 meters long to use as the back of the ramp. Is the length of the board as shown in centimeters correct? So we are going to be starting with 1.2 meters. We have to convert this into centimeters. Okay, so we're starting with meters and then we're going to be converting it to centimeters. So on my page, I'm going to write King, Henry, doesn't, which is the deca, bake, which is my base, donuts, Christmas morning. So we're starting with meters. We have to remember that, okay, M is meters, M is not millimeters, okay? So that M, that base could be meters, grams, or liters. So we're starting with meters, and then we are traveling to centimeters right here. So how many times are we going to be moving this decimal point? If we're going from our base to the D and then to the C, we will be moving our decimal point twice. So I'm going to rewrite 1.2. I have to move this decimal point twice to the right. That's why when I just showed this on my little table, moving once, twice to the right, I have an arrow there. That way I'll remember I have to move my decimal point once, twice to the right. Fill in your decimal, that way you don't forget it. So 1 2/10 meters is equal to 120 centimeters. So is she correct? Is the ramp 120 centimeters? Yes, she is. Now let's look at example 2. Example 2 says, Raji poured 150 liters of water into an aquarium. How much more water does Raji need to fill the aquarium? So, the total aquarium holds 2.2 hectoliters. So in order for us to figure out how much more water he needs in this fish tank, we're going to have to first figure out how many hectoliters he poured into the fish tank. So we're going to have to convert that 150 liters. Again, liters should stand out to you as being one of those base words, to how many hectoliters. And liters is always a capital L. So I'm going to look at my metric phrase here. King, Henry, doesn't, bake, donuts, Christmas morning. That's just what I remember. I learned it when I was your age, and that's what stuck with me. If you have another phrase that works for you, use it. Okay, whatever phrase you know and you'll remember, we want you to use. So we're starting at the base, we're starting at the liters. And where do we have to convert to? We're going to have to convert to hectoliters. Okay, where's H? Here it is. So how many times am I going to have to move my decimal point? And in what direction? Once, twice to the left. So if I had 150 liters, that decimal point's at the end. It's hidden even though we don't see it. It's there. And I'm going to move my decimal point twice to the left. Once, twice. So 150 liters is equal to 1.5 hectoliters. Now, that doesn't answer the question though. Yes, we converted these units, but now we have to answer the question. It says, how much more water does Raji need to fill the aquarium? Well, right now, I'm going to redraw my little picture here. Right now, let's see, we have a fish tank. Here's my fish tank. So we have a fish tank here that has 1.5 hectoliters of water in it. The whole fish tank can hold 2.2 hectoliters. So we have to figure out what this missing space is. So we would have to subtract. We would have to subtract the total minus the part to get the other part. So 2.2 minus 1.5, you can put that in your calculator. 2.2 minus 1.5 will equal 0.7 hectoliters of water.